Hello, fictional. Welcome to the What If Issei. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei become the Dragon Lord? Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Mermaider. 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 The alarm suddenly slammed by a hand belonging to a tired teen. Ugh, Issei groaned as he sat up on his bed. Dad changed my alarm clock again, he muttered with a yawn. Scratching his head, he looked around his room. What a weird dream, he rubbed his eyes. He then picked up his phone and noted that there were no missed calls of messages. He scrolled through his contacts and was shocked of what he could not find. What do you mean you don't remember her? A slightly confused and irritated Issei asked as he along with the perverted duo were standing around the stairs leading to the third floor. Issei Motohama began. We're your friends. There's no way you'd have a girlfriend before us. He stated. Issei bit back a retort. Whatever. He sighed. Dude, if we knew a girl like her, Mitsuda started. But the brunette raised his hand. Please don't. He frowned slightly. How could this happen? You guys met her yesterday. He pointed out. Like we said, you never introduced her to us. The bespectacled pervert said. No way would you get a girlfriend before us anyway. Mitsuda said. It's just not possible. The brunette simply groaned. You know what? You're right. I'm going to take a walk now. He took a step up the floor. Ara, Hyoudou-san. A female called him from above. Yo, Issei. A second female called. The three looked up and saw Rias and Seiko looking at them, more to Issei, and gave a small smile, while the perverted duo were ogling at their bouncing breasts as they made their way down the stairs. Ah. Busejima-senpai. A group of female students shouted. Ria-sama. Another group shouted. Seiko grinned at the brunette. Like any other female student, she wears the Cow Academy uniform, but her skirt reached to knees instead. As the two of the six goddesses stepped down the stairs, Ria's giving the Hyoudou a small sly smile, and she kept going down the other set, but Seiko stopped and wrapped her left arm around his neck. Heard you've been getting pretty chummy with Rias there, huh? The purple-haired kendo club captain grinned as she nodded her head at the retreading Reed. Well you, see leave Issei alone. Motohama shouted at his senior. Yeah. Mitsuda agreed. The brunette was surprised that his friends were defending him. Why don't you hold us instead? They said in union as they grinned with lecherous smiles on their faces, causing the young Hyoudou to deadpan. Murayama, Caddis. The purple-haired young woman scowled at the two males. Dushine suddenly slammed onto the bald and brown-haired pervert with the shouts of men. Hitting their heads and knocking them down to the ground. Ow. The bald pervert hissed in pain as he held his shaved cranium. What the hell? Yeah. The glass-wearing one agreed as he rubbed his scalp. I meant to hit their heads between their legs, Seiko pointed out to the two kendo members. She then shrugged. Probably wouldn't hit anything anyway. She then grinned at the brunette. I'll see you around, Hyoudou. She then walked away, Caddis and Murayama following her like two bodyguards to an important actress. Issei rubbed his head with a sigh. What the hell is going on? He wondered. Who cares? Mitsuda mumbled after finally being able to think with whatever brain cells left in his head. So how about we look at that collection of yours, huh, Mitsuda? The glasses-wearing pervert grinned. Damn straight we will. The bald one replied. Hero is life. Hero is forever. The duo shouted, raising their fists in the air as if proclaiming the best thing in the world. Those two are despicable. I kind of feel sorry for Hyoudou. I know, right? He's not even as perverted as those two, yet. Issei sighed as began to walk down the stairs. Boy. Issei. Wait up. How was school today, Ice-kun? His mother asked as she placed a plate of food before him. Issei blinked. It was good, Mom. He smiled at her. You seem troubled, son. His father wondered as he picked the remote and changed the channel. I'm okay. He said as he turned to the left. Looks like the neighbors are having an argument. He muttered low enough that his parents wouldn't hear him. His eyes widened at that. How did I hear them? He wondered as he absent-mindedly spooned his food and began to eat at a decent pace without pause. Are you sure you're okay, son? His father asked him. Swallowing whatever he was eating, he looked to his father. Yeah, Dad. Why? You eating liver like you loved it so much? The mother pointed out, worried of her son's sudden like for the meat she made. Issei's eyes widened at that. He hated liver, but he always ate what his mother placed for him. He looked at his plate and gulped last piece of cooked organ that was in his mouth and noted that just a few rice and steamed vegetables were left on his plate. What's going on? Why did I feel so hungry? Excuse me. He said as he stood up. I'm going to go for a walk, is that okay? I don't see why not. The father replied as his wife looked at the clock, seeing that it was about 7 o'clock. Please come back home before it gets too dark, okay, Ice-kun? His mother asked. The brunette smiled. Don't worry, Mom. He assured her. I'll be fine. He then picked up his plate and put it into the sink and began to wash it. Issei was making his way down the hill of his neighborhood. This isn't right. He wondered as he looked around the area, the sun setting and darkening the place. It's getting dark and yet to him he can see as clear as day. I can see so perfectly. He blinked. Oh. He heard a moan in the distance and looked at the direction. Okay, he breathed. I can see in the dark and apparently I can hear stuff from a good distance. I heard the neighbors complaining about their deadbeat son and I can assume that I can hear about a block away from a couple that's making their way to a love motel. He frowned. What the hell is going on with me? He wondered as he continued his walk. For some reason, I feel like there's some kind of power that woke up in me. Some kind of energy flowing through my body. He unwillingly placed his hand over his chest. My body's acting strange. He looked to a house and noted how can see clearly as if the sun was still out. Looking at his phone he noted that he was out of the house for about an hour. I'll take a little detour. He thought to himself as he made his way to his destination. The story's main character stopped at a familiar sight. This place. He made himself to the fountain in the area. Placing his hand over the stone end he gave a sad smile. This is where Yuma-chan and I came before. He looked down, his hair shadowing over his eyes. This can't be a dream. He sighed standing straight and looking into the darkened skies. His eyes then widened as he felt something stir within him. Well, a menacing male voice chuckled, making his way from a dark corner of the park. I didn't think that you would be alive. Issei grinned as he stepped out and held his fedora on his head with his left hand as he leaned back slightly with right hand in his pocket. Today must be my lucky day. He chuckled as he eyed the young man like a predator would his prey. Issei stepped back, his legs pressing against the fountain and nearly toppling over the edge. Who are you? He frowned, mentally looking around to see if he can get away from this well-dressed man. My name is of no importance, devil. The man crooned as he snapped his fingers, a barrier erecting around the park. But I will make sure the boss's plan is worked to the final T. He grinned as he raised his left hand at the brunette, a blue spear of light flashing into his hand, the tip being hollowed and the staff being shorter. Without much of a warning he hurled the spear, grinning at such an easy kill. Issei leaped to the side, instinct ruling over his body to avoid the unholy attack. What he did not take into account that he leaped a good few meters away and slamming into a tree, snapping the weak branches and hitting the pavement hard. He got up, groaning as he rubbed his back and was shocked at his action. It doesn't hurt. He thought in wonder. And I was just gonna leap to the side, not soar. Oh? Issei scowled slightly at the young man as his two sets of wings widened as a display to intimidate the brunette. You dodged that. He summoned another spear. Gonna have to fix that. Wings? Issei's eyes widened. Yuma-chan, he thought. He shook his head before he turned and run. Gotta make sure no one else is here. He added as feathers began to rain around him. Shit. Forgot that he has wings. Looking up he sees that the man was right above him. What a weakling. Issei scowled as he was instantly before the young man and swung his arm with a close line, knocking the teen on his back and was painfully sliding behind him. He then twirled his spear and threw it, pinning Issei's left leg into the ground and causing him to scream in pain and agony. Ah! The student of Kao Academy yelled. He gritted his teeth as he gripped a light-infused weapon, his hand instantly released once he felt them burn like fire upon grasping it. What the fuck? He gritted his teeth as pain was sent through his body. Low-level creatures like you are so troublesome. The man sighed as he summoned another light spear. He watched as the young man grit his teeth in pain as he glared at him. HMPH. I don't sense the presence of a master. He stated. You tried to escape but did not expand a magical circle. You must be a stray. He snapped his finger as the holy spear, pinning the young Hyoudou, shattered into pieces. Then I'll just kill you. He raised the spear ready to impale the young man. This has to be a dream. A sick fucked up dream. He struggled to get up but pain lanced through his body as blood poured from his leg. He only managed to move back slightly. Issei was before the brunette with his wings flapping, slapping him aside with a left set and hurtling the spear at him, pinning Issei through the stomach to a tree. Ah! He coughed out a bit of blood as he gritted his teeth and attempted to pull the unholy weapon from him, ignoring the burning that he was receiving from it and the blood. This hurts, he mentally gasps. But why is it starting to feel less? He wondered. This wasn't as bad as when Yuma-chan did this. It hurts, doesn't it? The fedora-wearing graceless man grinned at the young man suffering. Light, rather it's holy or unholy, is very poisonous to your kind after all. He looked as the brunette still struggled to pull it out. But you seem to be gaining a type resistant to it. As if adapting, he frowned as he created another unholy spear, putting more of his power into it and growing to the size of an average adult male. If I kill you now I might be able to bring your head for Rainer. He chuckled. Rainer? The Hyoudou was getting tired of pulling the weapon from his stomach and was losing blood. His pants were soaked and shirt was ruined. Now let me see as the light fade from your eyes. He grinned as his thorn halo blazed into existence and his sclera burned black. His teeth sharpened as his jaw seemed to have unhinged slightly. Her eyes turning to slit, he dashed towards the pinned young man. "I'm sorry everyone," he thought as he closed his eyes. "I'm sorry Uma-chan." Just then a black bolt with red ends struck the four-winged man, knocking him back with a small explosion. Gritting his teeth as he patted his chest to numb the pain as he growled. "Who did that?" he asked menacingly. His answer came in the form of Rhea stepping forward. "Don't you dare lay a hand on him." She scowled at the graceless angel. Her eyes were slit as her sclera raging red. Her teeth were sharpened as her wings were out in full display. Rhea-senpai Issei muttered weakly before his body succumbed to the blood loss and passed out. "And who the hell are you?" Donasik inquired as he held his spear at the ready. "Another spawn of Makai. Mind your words, you deformed crow." Rhea spat as a menacing red aura surrounded her body like flames, her hair blowing under its power. The man simply scoffed. "Don't think that flaunting such a weak aura will help you." He eyed her body from chest to waist. "But I wouldn't mind a little show," he grinned before he launched the enlarged spear at her, lowering the power in order to incapacitate her. Sensing the power drop and scowling at his attempt, Rhea's aura rose before she simply smacked the unholy spear aside, ignoring the burn that was slowly healing on her hand. Before the man could create another spear, a white blur was right before him. He glanced down, seeing a petite white-haired girl with yellow slit eyes within the pools of red sclera, her face showing no emotions as her small fist smashed into his stomach with small sound of sheathing the small appendage to its elbow. "Wah!" Donasik coughed out some saliva, nearly losing concentration of maintaining his spear. Growling, he thrusts his weapon forward, missing the small girl by a margin. "Good work, Kaneko." Rhea's complimented her cowhide as she landed besides the Redeed, who only got a nod in response as they both look at the four-winged man. "You insolent fools. Do you truly think that you can defeat me?" he bellows as he raised his spear above. "The day's forecast is lightning with a chance of strike." A female voice giggled before said prediction struck. Donasik looked up as several yellow rotating circles were guiding a lightning bolt towards him, fast enough to be struck by the electrical element. Gritting his teeth in both anger and pain, he glared at the duo as Akeno came forward with a small smile and a step that gave her breasts a very noticeable jiggle, electricity crackling between her fingers. Her eyes being slit along with deep red sclera peering into his eyes. That lightning felt familiar. Almost as if he banished the thought as he looked at Rhea's once again. "Red hair," he muttered as he stood tall. "I see. You must be from the Gremory family." Rhea's gave a devilish smile. "That's right. My name is Rhea's Gremory." She raised her hand, power glowing with it. "How are you today, you dear deformed crow?" She mocked with fake bow. Her eyes flashed as she sneered at the man. "So what gives you rights to attack someone of my peerage?" she asked. "And in my shared domain no less." The man gritted his teeth as he dusted his fedora, the halo fading away like a dying flame. Well, he placed his styled hat upon the crown of his head, hiding his eyes from them, and his jaws snapped back in place. "Forgive me for being so bold." He stood as he palmed his left hip. "I did not know that this was your territory. And to think I was doing you mongrels a favor." He goaded as he glanced at the still-pinned Hyoudou. How is he still alive? He wondered as he willed the spear away, releasing the young man. "Kaneko?" Rhea's commanded her white-tea friend. "Hi." She murmured as she went to the fallen brunette and began to tend to his wounds. "I'm going to pluck those wings and fry them." Rhea said. Akeno allowed arcs of electricity to go through her hands. "No mercy should be given to those that hurt my loved ones. Well, how about I apologize for today?" He smiled, raising his head and looking at the Gremory with a normal single eye in view. "Besides, don't you have a little devil to look after?" he said in a mock-cooed tone as he released the hold on his hat and raised his hand in surrender. Rhea's frowned. "Fine. You get to live only to die another day. Take your leave. A little advice, young miss. You should keep an eye on your manservant there." He smiled. It would be unfortunate if something were to happen to him during his late-night walks. His wings spread open. "And a warning to you. If you ever lay a hand upon my comrades, I will not leave you off scot-free." "The same to you, Miss Gremory," the fallen man said as he flapped his wings, pushing him off the floor. "My name is Donasik." His voice echoed. "May we never see each other again. Or you will die." Rhea's growled as she allowed her aura to die down. Making her way to the wounded young brunette with Akeno by her side, she sighed. "I was careless into thinking that they would not look for him." She gave a sad look at Issei. His wounds were covered by large medical tapes with ruin markings over them as his head rested on Kaneko's small lap. Kaneko looked at her mistress. "Will he be okay?" she asked. "I will heal him," she said. "You two go home and rest. I won't let him die." She kneeled by his side and brushed her fingers against his cheek. Master, please wake up. I have some tea prepared for you." Or maybe a soft giggle was heard. "Would you like to have me for breakfast?" "I'm sure tea." The alarm was cut off by a hand belonging to one Hyoudou Issei. "Damn it, Pops." Stop changing my alarm clock. He groaned as he raised himself by his elbows. Damn, my body feels heavy. He muttered as he rubbed his eyes. What the hell happened last night? He wondered as he sat up, the sheets falling from his form. Wah. He looked down. Why am I naked? He wondered. A giggle caught his attention. Looking to side of his bed where the sound came from, Issei's brown eyes took in the sight of a naked and smiling Ria's gremmery. My. She smiled as she eyed the young man. Issei had a lean figure despite not joining any of the sports clubs, he had a slight 8-pack in the making. Not bad. Her eyes trailed down his form, stopping at his 7 inches and soft member. Not bad at all. I wonder how big you would be when you're hard, Issei backpedaled with a small yelp, falling off the bed with a crash and bringing the sheets with him. Ria-senpai, he shouted in shock as he backed up against cupboard, holding the sheets to cover his privates. Good morning, Issei-kun. She greeted with sensual smile as she sat up. Did you have a nice night? She asked before she stretched her arms up overhead, causing her light pink nipples with darker peach shade areola breasts to bounce. She relaxed against the wall as she intentionally gave him a view of her lower lips, showing that her pubic hair was shaped like a bat's. Because I sure did. Ria-senpai. Issei called his senior with an obvious blush on his face. The redhead tilted her head to the side. Why are you in my house and my room naked? He shook his head. This has to be a dream. He concluded to himself. In a few minutes, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to turn off whatever sound for an alarm clock my dad put for. Ria's giggled as she went on all fours, going forward like a cat on a prowl as her breast swayed from left to right. She looked at her cowhide as he was muttering sentence after sentence. Feeling sorry for the young man, she reached out and cupped his cheeks with her left hand. Shhh, she soothed from her lips. Come here, Issei. She said in a low tone. Wordlessly, the brunette allowed himself to be pulled onto the bed with the sheets in his hand. He was rolled onto his back as Ria straddled his hips with her thighs on either side. Taking some ragged breaths, he looked into her eyes. All off the things that happened, he choked. Everything that I went through. Is alright, Issei-kun. She lowered her face to his. It was all real. Lowering herself, she pressed her breasts against his chest. Smiling as he calmed down, albeit slightly. Let me formally introduce myself. She raised to sit, ignoring little Issei stirring beneath her. My name is Ria's Gremmery, heiress to the Gremmery household of Makai. Her large bat-like wings opened from her lower back. I'm also a devil. The devil? He repeated. And your mistress. She added, smiling as her eyes turned to slit and her sclera burned red. Nice to have you in my peerage, Hyoudou Issei-kun. She smiled. Issei was stunned, idly noting Ria's retracting her wings as she slowly moves on him. You're getting excited, aren't you? He heard her tease with a smile as the red in her sclera faded to white and her slit eyes reverted to their circular shape. Issei. The brunette's mother called as she walked up the stairs. You have to wake up or you'll be late for school. The teen freaked. He can't let his mother see Ria's like this. She would jump to conclusions. I'll be ready in a minute. He shouted as he held the now revealed redhead devil by her hips, stopping her from gyrating against him and ignoring the boner that he has now. You're getting bigger. She teased as her hand reached down. Nonsense. The mother said with a smile as she opened the door. It's not like I haven't seen you naked before. She slowed as she sees her son with a young woman on his hips, both naked with covers over their lower body. Good morning, Miss Hyoudou. Ria's gave a slightly lustful smile as she sensually rubbed Issei's chest. Good morning. The mother greeted back. Please enjoy your time. I'll call the school and tell them that you'll reach a bit late. Then she quickly closed the door. No wait, Mom. He cried out as he heard the woman ran down the stairs. Honey. The two teens heard the brown-haired woman shouted as she ran down the stairs. What? What happened? The father shouted in shock, not expecting to hear his wife scream so early in the morning. The foreign woman. She shouted. Issei simply groaned as his head hit his pillow while Ria's giggled. What do you mean, a foreign woman? He questioned. Issei is sleeping with a foreign woman. It's international. How am I going to explain this? He muttered as Ria's got off him with smile. The redhead made her way to the folded clothes that were set on his study desk and took up her black thong. You will not tell your parents about the supernatural world that you are now a part of. She stated as she bent before him, giving a good view of her shapely ass and maiden lips. I was gonna keep that out of course. He said with a sigh as he appreciates the sight of the red-haired devil. So why were you in my bed anyway? He asked. Last night was a blur to me. Then you missed how talented you were last night. Ria's teased as she put her bra on and fixed her breasts inside the cups. I've never screamed so loud in my life. She added as she clasped the bra behind her. Fixing her hair, she turned to the blushing teen. You were much better than my fingers. She smiled as she grabbed her skirt and puts it on. Fixing the skirt, she bends to pick up her shirt. You have quite the energetic family. She commented as she slipped her hands through the sleeves and buttoned up the shirt. She then turned to him, 3 of the top buttoned loose showing some cleavage. But Issei noticed something. The teasing smile was gone and her eyes showed concern. "How is your left leg and stomach?" she asked as she approached him, placing her hand over the smooth skin, not a sign of scarring in sight. "You were attacked by a fallen angel last night." Issei blinked, the memories now rushing through his mind. "I'm fine," he replied looking down. "I guess it wasn't the first time I was stabbed by a spear of light." He tried to make a joke, but the redhead can't see the pain reflecting in his eyes. Riaz gave a small smile. "You have an expectantly sturdy body," she commented as she sat next to him. "You healed overnight." "I healed over the night?" he asked incredulously. He had a hole in his stomach and his left leg and he was pinned to a tree God knows how long. "I shared some of my devil aura to heal the wounds," she explained. "I must admit, I definitely liked what I saw." She teased once again. "I sleeping naked in my bed?" He raised an eyebrow. "And why am I not bothered by the fact that I'm naked with a girl in my room?" He mentally added as he subconsciously covered his waist with the sheets. "Don't worry." She smiled. "You were knocked out the entire time as I hold your body close to mine. I'm still a virgin, you know," she added. Issei sighed in relief. The last thing he needed was a thought of losing his virginity against his will, even worse if word got that if he did pop the cherry of one of the Kao no Roku Megami, Kao 6 goddesses, the male students would be livid. Does the idea of not popping my cherry make you feel bad?" she teased. "No, no, 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 no." He shook his head. "I would rather you lose something important like that to someone you love," he explained, but his face soured as a smiling Yuma flashed through his mind. Riaz gave a sad smile. "You are definitely different than those two," she commented as she leaned against his arm and raised his head to look at her. "Don't make such a face. The world in itself is filled with mysteries." "Mysteries, huh?" he said looking into her eyes. "Ria-senpai." "Yes. Can I put some clothes on?" he requested. Iri gently released her hold on his chin and giggled. "Of course you may." She stood up as she finished buttoned her shirt. "I'll see you downstairs." She winked as she walked out with a sway in her hips. "She is definitely a devil." He sighed. "No way." A male student shouted defiantly. "Ria-sama and that guy." A female student stated. "Well, he is a nice guy." Another female added. "Unlike those two. That bastard." A second male student shouted. "How can someone so lame be walking with someone so majestic? Drop dead, Hyoudou." A few of the angry males shouted at the newly christened devil. Too late for that, he thought as he and Riaz stopped at the main building's front entrance. "I'll send someone to look for you," Riaz said as she looked at the brunette as she gently rubbed his right cheek. "I'll see you after school, okay?" "Hi." He nodded. Riaz gave her cowhide one last smile before she made her way to her desired destination. She walked until she reached around a corner and stopped. "Hello, Sauna, Tsubaki." She greeted with smile, looking at 2 people before her. Riaz. A young bespectacled woman about 18 with a slim figure, B-cup bust, black hair styled in a short bob cut and violet eyes greeted back with a small nod. She was also wearing the standard girl's uniform of the Ku Academy and a set of red oval-rimmed glasses. "Ria-sama." Tsubaki greeted with a small bow. She is another young bespectacled woman with long straight black hair that extends all the way down to her knees, with split bangs and heterochromic eyes, with a violet left eye and a light brown right eye, and F-cup bust. In addition to wearing the Kuo Academy girls' school uniform, she also wears blue semi-rimmed glasses with square lenses. "We are in the human world, Riaz," Sauna stated as she fixed her glasses. "So please address me as Sona." "Of course, Miss Satiri." Riaz smiled, ignoring the small twitch on the lithe-figured devil. "So what brings you to me?" she inquired. "In discussion of the fallen angels that came into our territory," she said. "How will we deal with them?" "I will deal with them," Riaz corrected. "They attack someone of my peerage and they will pay for it." "I see." Sona nodded. "Very well. If there is any type of assistant that you wish for," she offered, "then you will be the first to call, Sona." Riaz smiled. Sona gave the smallest of smiles that she allowed. Without a word she nodded as she turned to the young woman beside her. "Let's go, Tsubaki. And invite Saji to my office." "Planning to ask him to your peerage?" Riaz asked. "I have a space open since you took someone that caught both our interest," she pointed out. "I merely picked him on whim." She waved her hand. "I'll also transfer Kiryu and him to Hyoudu's class," she explained before turning and walking away, Tsubaki giving a small bow before following her charge. Issei sighed as he attempted to call the redeed, but stopped. Suddenly he felt the air around him shift and the wind taking a strange direction with the sound of something rushing through it. Letting his body move on its own, Issei avoided a sloppy but yet well-aimed punch from Mitsuda's left fist as he shouted, "Traitor." He raised an eyebrow at that. "How could you?" Motohama shouted. You betrayed your comrades in the LA. Los Angeles? He questioned. Losers alliances, the duo shouted as one. Oh. He shrugged. Why you? The bald student rolled his sleeves as he marched towards the brunette, but Motohama stopped him. Calm down, Mitsuda. The spectacled teen said as he looked at his friend. Now Issei. He fixed his glasses. We want to reconcile, let us know what happened and I swear upon my divine collection that you can burrow all of them. He bribed. Issei allowed a sweat drop to go down the side of his head. It's official, God hates me. He mentally concluded as the bell rings. Well guys, we got class. He turned and walked away. Get back here you bastard. The two yelled as they chased after him. Foo, 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 foo. A girl around 17 giggled as she looked at the trio. So that's him, huh? The guy that got our king's attention. She grinned. Too bad Ria's got him first. She then looked to her phone. Shit, I got recount the school budget before Sitakecho drowns me again. Issei was bored, his heightened sensing actually keeping him awake during his lessons. Ria-senpai says that she'll send someone to come for me, he muttered low enough. But who? A bout of squeals came by, causing him to raise an eyebrow and wondered who was passing by this time. To his surprise, Kaneko and Kiba walked into the class. The female dressed in the male uniform with her ever-present friendly and welcoming smile, along with a masked ever-neutral expression, while eating a bag of manju. Hello everyone. Kiba greeted them as she stood by the crowd at the door. Can you let us pass? We came to pick up Hyoudou-san for our club president. She said as she looked around the room and spotted Issei. Of course. Cadis and Murayama nodded as they too looked at the brunette. Hyoudou, you have a visitor. The brown-haired member of the kendo club shouted. What the hell is this shit? What's with Hyoudou, huh? Why does he get the attention all of a sudden? No need to shout. The brunette sighed as he stood up and grabbed his bag. Flipping it over his right shoulder, he began to walk. You make it sound like an inmate being visited by his wife and daughter. He joked. Not a good moment to make one though. Issei. M&M shouted as they tried to tackle him. Said Hyoudou simply avoided them. Knock it off guys. He sighed as he continues his walk. Issei-senpai. Kaneko's soft voice caught his attention. Once she was certain that he gave her his attention, she pulled out a manju and offered it to him. From the candies you gave me, she muttered with a neutral expression. Many of the people were shocked, even Kiba. Let it be known that this Kaneko rarely share her sweets. Thank you. Issei smiled as he took the offered sweet. Taste good. He commented. Is it possible that they were actually a couple? A female student asked. No way. He came to school walking Ria-senpai. Maybe he's dating both of them, a male shouted. That lucky two-timing bastard. Another male shouted in jealousy. Will they stop spouting nonsense? He wondered, ignoring the small giggle that escaped the female blonde student dressed in a male's uniform. In the old school building, the main room being lit by candles. Issei was guided by both the masked and Prince of Cow. Welcome to the Occult Research Club, Hyoudou Issei. Kiba smiled as she waved him in. Thanks for the invite. He nodded as he made his way to the large couch and sat on the left end, placing his bag at the side. He heard a sound and looked to the side and noted a lit room with a curtain before it. You girls have a shower here? He asked in wonder. Ah yes, we do. The blonde answered as she sat at the opposite of him, her left leg crossed over the right as she folded her hands over the knee. Ria-sama added it in case any of us were to spend the night here or if we were ever too tired to go to our homes. The brunette nodded, seeing logic in the answer. He then felt the couch cushion shifted a bit and looked to see Kaneko sitting beside him as she continued to eat her candy. Ara Keno voiced as she stepped up, holding a folded set of a female uniform in her hands. Seems we have a visitor. She gave a demure smile. Akeno-senpai. Good afternoon. He greeted the beautiful busty young woman. My, are you a gentleman? She smiled. And simply calling me Akeno is fine. She winked as she turned to the curtain. Ria's, I brought you some clothes. She announced. Thank you Akeno. Ria's voice came from the other side as her silhouette was in view. Should have called it, he muttered. So you're the new club member, huh? Akeno smiled as she walked towards her cowhide. I'm the Fukubochu of the Occult Research Club, Himejima Akeno. Pleased to formally meet you. She smiled as he gave a small bow to him. Hyoudou Issei. He scratched the back of his head. Damn, she's beautiful. Like a natural Yamato Nadeshiko. He wondered. Thank you for the wait, everyone. Ria's addressed everyone as she stepped out of the shower, fully dressed, wiping the side of her face with a towel. I didn't get to take a shower at your place since there were no extra clothes. She explained as she made her way to the large oak desk. Sitting on the chair, she placed the towel aside and smiled. Well, everyone's here now. We welcome you to our Occult Research Club. Thank you. Issei nodded. But the Occult Research Club is just a mere facade, nothing more than a hobby. Akeno explained. All of us here are devils. Ria's put in with a small grin as she stood up and made her way in front of the desk. Straight to the point, huh? Issei blinked. With a nod and a wave of her hand, the Gremory command her peerage to release their wings and reveal their eyes. Issei watched as each of member changed. The eyes turned to slit as her sclera burned red. Her hair gained a slightly spikier attribute which, to the young Hyoudou, made her look sexy. She gave a small smile as her fangs peeked from her upper lips and her wings opened up. The Kendo eyes turned to slit as well as her sclera turned into a deep red color. Her hair remained the same as her wings spread open. For a second he could have sworn he saw a flicker above her head. But simply passed it off for the candlelight tricking his eyes. He looked as Kaneko went through the same change. Her golden-colored eyes turned to slit, making them look almost cat-like as her sclera turned red. She didn't extend her wings since she was sitting right beside him. You should try it as well, Hyoudou-kun. Kiba encouraged. The brunette thought for a while. What the hell? He shrugged as he stood up. Rias walked to her latest member and placed her hands on his shoulder. Simply concentrate, Issei. She smiled. Issei did as was advised and felt his back muscle quiver and move. I feel something. He said. Good. Hold on to that feeling and pull. The Reon-D encouraged. The brunette did so and heard his shirt ripped at the back and felt like a weight was added to him. He opened his eyes and looked back. He has wings like the others sans Kaneko, but he noted that they were tinted with slight red color. Congratulations, Issei-kun. Ria smiled as she held a mirror to him, showing that his eyes were brown slit with red sclera. The Kendo giggled. Congratulations indeed. She agreed. Now then her wings went back into her body as she leaned against the desk. The man that attacked you last night is called a fallen angel. She continued. Upon Issei's eye widening, she went ahead. Angels that had fallen from grace due to either their wicked nature or a desire far greater than worshipping God himself. She sighed. Such beautiful and white doves tainted black. They were also manipulating certain humans in order to destroy us since the days of old. There have been constant struggles between us and Makai, as most of them would call it, hell. There are also the angels, enemies to both of us. They follow God himself by his orders to kill us both. In other words, we have a three-way war. Issei gulped. Well shit, do you understand the situation so far? The Reon-D devil asked. Yeah, I think. He felt a pat on his shoulder and looked to see Kaneko offering him a sweet. Thanks. He took the offered candy with a smile and patted her head. Kaneko flinched slightly at the contact, but feeling her senpai petting her head sent a small warmth through her petite body, then suddenly she gave a slight purr. The second year actually found it funny that she can do that and still maintain her stoic expression even with her eyes closed. The woman that killed you, Amano Yuma, is also one of them. Causing the young man to pause his petting. Issei sighed upon the mention of the young woman that was forced to kill him. Kiba stepped forward, her hand moving into her breast pocket and pulling out a picture and handed it to him. Issei took the picture and gasps. It was him and Yuma on their date. How? We were following you. Ria stated. As I said before, she is also a fallen angel. Her orders were probably to simply observe you. But something happened and she killed you. She didn't do it. He defended his girlfriend, well at least she might still be. She was forced to here up the bridge of his nose. There was something on her forehead, but she was fighting against it. That did not stop the fact that she killed you. Akeno frowned slightly. Against her will. He looked at her. Did you know she was crying as she speared me through the chest? Constantly apologizing over something she had no control over. Akeno frowned as she looked away. But no one else can remember her. He remembered. Why? Someone must have used a large area memory affecting spell. Kind of like the one I used on your parents. Ria smiled. Flashback, the senior from school. Issei mother parroted as she looked at the Reon-D and back to her son. Her husband sitting beside her and was looking over his newspaper. The four were currently sitting in the Hyoudou household dining room with breakfast before them. But his mother stammered. You two were naked in bed. That's probably how they do it in their country. The father defended. This is ridiculous, Issei whispered, as Ria simply smiled at his parents as she released a red wave of energy through the house. Right. The mother nodded in drawn tone, causing his son to look at him with wide eyes. I've read an article on that. You showed me it, remember? His father gave a half smile. What the hell just happened? Issei thought. Why did they just agree on that? He wondered, not realizing Ria's eyes flashing red for a moment. Flashback end. So that's how it was. He nodded. Once Yuma realized what happened, she must have erased everyone about her from the humans that she met through you. The Gremory heiress frowned. Someone must have forcefully altered her mission to kill you. Kill me? He wondered. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't know about all of this until yesterday, he defended. Why would someone who was obviously stronger than me kill me? Whatever her job was, it was to confirm that what you had was important or not. Ria stated. And by confirming it she was forced to kill you. What do I have? He asked. The sacred gear. Ria said. Sacred gear? He raised an eyebrow as he decided to continue petting his cowhide. An unusual power that resides within selected humans. Akeno explained, her smile back in on her face. It is said that most of the greatest of men and women through history possessed one. Sometimes they have a power formidable enough to be a threat to demons and fallen angels. Kiba said from her seat. Raise your left hand. Kaneko supplied with her toneless voice. Okay. The brunette nodded as he did so. He looked at his arm, noting no change at all. Now close your eyes and imagine the strongest of beings that come to mind. The redeed continued. This is all so sudden. The brunette thought, but did as was told. Focus, Issei. Akeno encouraged as she seized the brunette loose in concentration. The newly reincarnated devil felt nothing, but still tried. He opened his eyes and sighed. Sorry. It's alright. Ria smiled. We'll just take it slow. One step at a time. We all have our own pace. Kiba encouraged. Still. There has to be some kind of mistake. He defended. The fact that a fallen angel has targeted you means that you are a threat. Ria stated as she pulled out a card. This is a tracker paper I had Kaneko give you. This summoned me when you were dying. Thus reincarnating you as a devil under the Gremory household. I am a full-blooded devil, Ria's Gremory, the heiress, and an upper-class devil. Issei slumped into the coach. So I'm no longer human, huh? Issei asked and Ria's nodded. Is there any way I can get stronger? He asked. I don't want to be a burden to you guys. We can gain power through forming contracts with humans and receiving compensation for it. Nowadays humans don't draw circles to summon us anymore. Ria sighed. You can also train your body. She added. So we just hand our invite papers to potential humans. Akeno giggled. Normally we send out our familiars to carry them for us, but as a newly minted devil, you will have to start at the basics. Great, he groaned. But don't worry. I'm sure when you do get stronger, you'll have your own peerage as well. Ria stated as she rests her hand on his cheeks. That means you'll have a bigger reason to become stronger. She added as she smiled and stepped back. Here you go. She said as she presented a small slip of paper to him. Your first contract. I managed to get someone that can help you at your first step. Issei grabbed the paper and looked over it. Normally Kaneko or Kiba are the ones that deal with this one, but I think you can handle it. Ria's winked. Good luck. Kaneko gave him another candy, earning a pat on the head as a thank you. Okay. He nodded as he pumped himself up. Issei, give me your left hand. She asked. Receiving said appendage, she marked his hand with her family crest. This is a carved seal, proof that you are a part of the Gremory household. She turned to her friend. Akeno, if you please. Of course. Akeno smiled as she closed her eyes and spread her arms wide. Seconds later she began to chant as a red glowing seal appears below her feet and widened to about 1.5 meters. With 2 layers, each rotating the opposite way, the Gremory crest in the center. Okay, Issei. Step into the circle and it will transfer you to the client. Ria's nodded to him. Yosh. The brunette slapped his face before stepping into the seal. The seal began to rotate at a faster rate as it glows brighter. The 4 other devils stood there as the seal flashed brightly and the light dimmed away. Eh? Issei blinked. Ara Akeno blinked. Looks like it didn't work. Kiba sighed. Sad. Kaneko commented. Well then, Issei. Looks like I'll have to give you the address. The redeed smiled. Issei sighed as he arrived at the house that he was supposed to meet. This is the place I guess. He went to the front door and knocked on it. Excuse me. No one replied, but the door did open. It was a young woman about her late teens. She has light brown hair that was tied in a long ponytail with 2 strands that stuck out like antennas, sharp amber eyes, and was wearing a white guy over her form. The guy was opened enough to show her bandaged cleavage of her E-cup bust. Oh, you're not Kaneko-chan, of Kiba-chan. She frowned. Who are you and how did you get this address? Issei felt nervous. Hi. He bowed in greeting. My name is Hyoudo Issei, and I'm their temporary replacement since both Kaneko-chan and Kiba-san were busy with other contracts. So they sent me here via your address since I couldn't appear in the seal. Then again it's a good thing. The teen nodded. Good thing too. I would have pinned you to the wall. She admitted. Miyamoto Rei. She held out her left hand. Nice to meet you. She introduced herself. Nice to meet you, Rei-san. He smiled as he shook her hand. Oh. Come in, come in. She moved aside to let the brunette inside. Nice place. He complimented, looking around the apartment. Thank. Rei smiled as she closed the door. Moved out of parents' house a few months ago. She said as she went to her closet and pulled out a spear. Whoa. He stepped back. Don't worry, it's just a practice spear I used from my Yarajustu classes. She explained. Right. Issei swallowed. So what do I have to do? He asked. Just spar with me. Rei shrugged. With Kaneko I try to raise my endurance. So I try to hit you then? He guessed. Afraid to hit a girl? Rei asked as she held the spear over her left shoulder. I had my fair share of hits and stabs from girls. he muttered. Okay. Ray blinked as she sat in a stance, her spear pointed at the revived devil, and her eyes were filled with determination. She legs lowered as her eyes narrowed. You ready? She asked. In this small place? He asked shocked. He suddenly saw the tip of the spear before his left eye. Ah. He moved his head to the right, avoiding the deadly thrust aimed at him. Nice reflexes. She cheered as she thrusts again, aiming for chest. Hold it. He shouted jumping, avoiding being impaled by the spear, but his back hit against the wall. Gah. His eyes widened as he raised his left arm since he couldn't move in time. Ha! Ray cried as she thrusts to the young devil, believing that he would dodge it again. Seeing him raised his left arm, her eyes widened. Oh no. Issei felt fear grip his heart, his life flashing before his eyes as the spear neared his heart. Not again. He thought. His left arms flashed as he felt something surge through it. Clang. Ray blinked. What? She stepped back. Issei opened his eyes. Didn't know your arm can do that, the light brown-haired teen commented. Huh? Issei looked at his left arm, it looked different. It was like a gauntlet was formed over his left arm up to his elbow. It was deep crimson red with yellow markings and a yellow spike-like protrusion at either side of his wrist, with a green gem over the back of his hand. Nice. Ray grinned. That is damn cool. It does look cool. The brunette agreed. Say, you look like someone that needs some training. How about you come by with either Kaneko or Kiba? She advised. You sure about that? Issei wanted to make sure. I don't want to intrude. It's fine, it's fine. Ray waved her hand. It's just me here anyway. It came out without her thinking. How about we hang out too? The brunette offered as he scratched his head. You know. My contract was training speed and endurance. Ray explained. The young Hyoudo thought. Then make a contract with me. He held his hand. I'll be a friend to hang out with and train with. He offered. Ray thought about this for a while. She nodded as she gripped his hand. Deal. She smiled, shaking his hand, a seal appearing beneath them. Besides, you're cute. Heh. Thanks, but he chuckled as he released his hold on her hand. Don't sweat it. Ray smiled as a card appeared before her and took. Huh? Your number? Yeah. He nodded. Just in case you wanted to call me to hang out. I'll tell Ryusen though it and this too, he trailed off as he looked at his left arm. Looks like some kind of advanced disc shooter. The human female pointed out. Heh. Yeah. He agreed. So you've unlocked your sacred gear, huh? Rhea smiled, glad that the latest of her peerage was able to attain power to protect himself with. Congratulations. Kaneko clapped softly. Issei nodded at the white tee and turned back to the Gremory heiress. So how do I get my arm back? Your arm has always been there. Akeno joked. Once unleashed, you can activate and deactivate when you please. Rhea smiled at her friend's teasing. The brunette nodded and concentrated. The gem on the back of his palm glowed brightly before the whole sacred gear vanished. Thank God. Ow. He cried as he held his head in pain. What the hell? He groaned. Devils don't pray to God. Rhea's warned. It causes us pain. Thanks for the warning. Issei mumbled as his head was now better. He went to sit on the couch with Kiba already sitting there. I was worried that it would have stayed there. He sighed. This has become a problem though. Rhea stated as she gained the attention of her followers. Now that your sacred gear is active, the fallen angels that wants you dead will try to target you again. She pointed out. But never let the fact that you survived 2 attacks go to your head, Issei. Rhea said sternly. One mishap and can be the literal end of you. Is that clear? Issei looked down slightly. Hi. He nodded. The encounter you had with Donaseek was proof enough already. Given the fact that he didn't know that you've awakened your ability at that time, he still could have killed you. Kaneko walked to her senpai and sat on his lap, offering him a candy once again. Issei, slight surprised at the action, only smiled took the offered treat. Thanks Kaneko-chan. He patted her head, causing the girl to give a small purr as she leaned against his chest. She's kinda like a cat. He mentally noted. Now time to go home everyone. Rhea said as she stood. Show me the meaning of being hungry. My body's saying my stomach's empty. Tell me why I can't be full when I eat. Is it my metabolism? Oh, damn it dad. Issei roared. Issei made his way to school once again, having to leave early from home since he wanted to walk around and he was starting late. Ryusen might be angry with me. He sighed. Ah damn it. He cursed as he rounded a corner. Hiya. A young female shouted as she fell to the ground. Damn. Issei swore as he went to help a girl who unintentionally revealed her white panty clad behind to him since she was accidentally bowled over by him. That's a pretty pure color. Setting that aside, he went to help. Sorry about that. He said. I wasn't paying attention. Virginia Bean, it's fine. She smiled brightly at the young devil. She is a pretty young girl about 16 with long blonde hair and bright green eyes, a white veil over her head with light blue accents, wearing equal-colored crosses at the center of, a brown satchel slung on her right hip, and brown boots with black straps in an X-shaped pattern. Her attire consists of a dark teal nun outfit with light blue accents that gives out the slight shapes of her cup bust. She also wears a silver cross necklace around her neck. Besides her is a large brown suitcase that was opened and some of the clothes spilled out. Upon hearing the girl speak, not knowing the language, he tried to explain. Me dispious, I'm sorry. Ma non capisco quello che stai dicendo, but I don't understand what you're saying. Cosa intendi? What do you mean? She asked with a confused tone, her head tilted to the side to show what she meant. Si può chiaramente capirmi, you can clearly understand me. Issei was about to deny until his eyes widened. I can understand her, he thought in shock. Shaking that away, he held his hand out. Dispious, sorry about that. He apologized as the blonde girl gently grabbed his hand. Lascia ci ti aiuti fino, let me help you up. He requested as he gently pulled her up. Grazie mille, thank you very much. She smiled as she stood. The wind then blew hard, taking her veil off her head. Her hair flows all the way down to her back, with split bangs over her forehead and a single strand sticking out from the top, sloping backwards. She's cute. Issei admired the young woman as her green eyes sparkled in the sun. Il mio velo, my veil. She cried to it, but the brunette caught it. Grazie, thank you. She then looked down, seeing that he was still holding her hand. You Issei looked down to the joined hands and quickly released it. Scusate, sorry. He yelped as he held her veil to her. Ecco qui, here you go. The blonde smiled as she took the clothing and placed it over her head again. Sei una persona molto bella, you're a very nice person. She smiled. Mi potete aiutare per favor, can you help me please? Mi sono perso e sto cercando di trovar questo posto, I'm lost and I'm trying to find this place. She held up a piece of paper with Japanese written on it. Issei took the letter and read the address and looked around and smiled at her. So dove il posto I know where the place is. Quindi sei in un viaggio, so you're on a trip. Issei inquired as he guided the young girl to her destination, the two walking through a small park. The blonde shook her head with a smile. In un modo, in a way. Sono stato nominato alla chiesa di questa città, I was appointed to this town's church. Sto anche cercando di imparare il Japanese, I'm also trying to learn Japanese. Sono sicuro che si la caverà, I'm sure you'll pull through. He encouraged. Quindi sei una suora, so you're a nun. At her nod, he also nodded. Questo spiega il look, that explains the look. Sono contento di aver incontrato una persona così bella come te, I am glad to have met such a nice person like you. She looked down with a small flush of peach on her face. Deve essere la guida divina, it must be divine guidance. She clasped her hands together and closed her eyes. Issei simply smiled and noticed the cross that gleamed in the sun. He then looked away from the item. The young nun noticed this and was a bit worried. Virginia tutto bene, is everything okay? Issei picked up on the worried tone and gave a small smile. Sto bene, I'm fine. Tutto posto, everything's okay. He laughed a little as he looked ahead. What was that feeling? He thought as he frowned slightly. He then turned to the side, hearing a child crying. The blonde looked and sees a small boy maybe about 7 or 8, on the ground crying and with a small open wound on his left knee. She reached the boy and patted his head and gave him a gentle smile. Si può tradurre per me per favor, can you translate for me please? She asked. Issei nodded as he too walked to the boy and gently patted his back. Everything is going to be okay, alright. He said and the boy nodded as he sniffed. Non piangere, piccolo, don't cry, little one. She said softly as she raised both hands over the wound. Tutto sta per essere molto meglio, everything is going to be much better. Tu sei un ragazzo forte, dopo tutto, you're a strong boy after all. She said as 2 silver rings, each bearing a blue-green gem and is worn on both of ring fingers, gave of a soft green glow. The boy hiccuped as he felt the pain go away. The rings, the young devil thought in awe, are healing the wound. He felt his left arm pulse in pain and wince at the feeling. What was that just now? It felt like a sting through my arm. He wondered, missing the glow fading away. He then looked at the boy, noted that the wound was completely gone. There you go kid. All better. He grinned. The boy smiled and nodded as he stood, testing his knee. Thanks, Wani-chan, Ani-chan. He said before running off. The nun looked at the boy with a smile. She then blinked and smiled bashfully at the brunette. Siamo spiacenti, forza dell'abitudine, sorry, force of habit. Issei simply smiled at her. The two were walking a good distance now, Issei in deep thought. I felt the sting in my left arms, my hand actually. He noted as he glanced at the nun. Maybe. Vivo averti ha sorpreso, I must have surprised you. She sounded slightly shameful. Virginia Bean, it's alright. Hi unbuen talento ki, you've got a good talent there. Sono abastanza securochi guarido un sacco di person con un potere così incredibile, I'm pretty sure you healed a lot people with such an amazing power. He said. The un potere meraviglioso concesso da Dio, it's a wonderful power granted by God. She smiled as she gazed down, a flash of sadness going through those green eyes. Si un potere meraviglioso, yes, a wonderful power. Issei was about to ask why the sudden change, but she looked up and smiled. Piccolo, there it is. Questo deve essere il posto, that must be the place. She pointed. Issei looked and in the distance he sees a church. Oh see. Oh yeah. I l'unica chiesa ci abbiamo in città, it's the only church we have in town. Brand, great. She sighed, thankful that they found the place she was looking for. Grazy Mill, thank you so much. Issei looked at the distant building. His body frozen as a strange feeling going through his being. What is this feeling? He thought in shock. He felt a shock through his left arm and looked to see his hand shaken against his will, as if it was being agitated. The young nun was oblivious of this as she turned and smiled at him. Vorrei restituire il favor, I would like to return the favor. She said, taking him from his thoughts. Volete accompagnarmi, would you like to accompany me? She offered. Issei faked a sad smile and shook his head, finally controlled the feeling in his arm. He looked at her. Siamo spiacenti, ho cose da fare, sorry, I have things to do. He apologized. Io vedo, I see. She sadly replied. She then perked up and the smile returned. Il mio nome, my name is Asia Argento. She introduced herself. Mi chiama Asia va bene, calling me Asia is fine. Sono, Hyoudo Issei, I'm Hyoudo Issei. The brunette introduced himself. Issei essendo il mio primo nome, Issei being my first name. Puis chiamarmi, you can call me, Issei. He grinned as he thumbed his chest. Signor Issei, Mr. Issei. She nodded as she rolled the name through her mouth. Sono così felice di aver incontrato qualcuno come te in Japan, I'm so happy to have met someone like you in Japan. She smiled brightly. Ah bene, ah well. He laughed nervously. Si prega di visitar la chiesa quando si trova il tempo, please visit the church when you find the time. She offered. Promettimi, promise me. Si prevero, I'll try. He nodded as he turned. Si vediamo in giro, I'll see you around, Asia-chan. He waved as he went away to walk. Spero di rivederti, Signori Issei, hope to see you again, Mr. Issei. The brunette looked back and smiled as she waved at him. She really is a good girl. Maybe I will pass by. Never go near that church again, Issei. Rias commanded, her eyes being slit as her sclera was burned red to enforce the order. Issei took a step back and shuddered. Sorry. He swallowed. The Grimoire heiress calmed down as her eyes reverted back. Churches are hostile territories to us devils. You'll incite grand-scaled fights between heaven and hell if you were to even step inside one. She stepped up to him, her shoes echoing through the empty clubroom. And you'll never know when a light spear is sent your way. Damn, he frowned and then blinked. Wait, how do I know other languages? He asked. Oh. Rias blinked. That was a setting for those of foreign country to understand each other. She replied. I see. He nodded. But what about that tingly feeling I got? That would be your devil's instinct warning of potential danger. Rias answered as she leaned against her desk. Staying around someone from the church is like asking to die. There are even those from the churches that wield sacred gears. Issei thought about the time when Asia used her rings. Do you know what it means to be exorcised? Rias asked out of the blue. No. He answered, feeling a chill down his spine. He felt like his entire skeletal structure under the devil's gaze. It was cold and distant, as if she suffered a great deal in the past. To exorcise a devil is to completely annihilate them. Into nothingness. She leaned off the desk and walked to him. You turn into nothingness. You feel nothing. You can do nothing. She whispered the last part. Do you know how that's like? No. He looked down. Sorry. She said as she held his face up by his chin. I didn't mean to make it sound so dark. She pulled him into a hug, sitting on his lap as she rested his head on her chest. I will do everything in my power to protect those important to me. She whispered as her wings opened and enveloped the two. Anything. Wings flapped before they settled against the back. Issei. Rainer sighed. Still thinking about that human? Donasi taunted as he was standing by the door. What do you want? She hissed. The nun's here. A cute innocent one to boot. He chuckled but moved his head as a red light spear flashed past him. Watch it, Donasi. The female fallen angel growled, her sharp teeth bared at him. You got lucky the last time. And you think you'll pull through this time? The man grinned, sprouting his four wings. That's enough. Middle shouted at the two as she shot a glare at the male graceless angel. Donasi, go and take Caloriner's watch time and take that asshole with you. I swear if I hear him say anything with the word shitty devil one more time, she let the sentence hang to get the message across. The man simply scoffed as he retracted his wings and walked away. They always say that the innocent were the ones repressing something darker. He chuckled as he glanced at the person besides middled. Asia shuddered under the man's gaze. Non si preoccupi, don't worry. The Lolita-dressed blonde placed a hand on the taller one. Andra tutto bien qui, you'll be fine. She assured her. Lui mi spaventa, he scares me. She admitted. Non ho mai visto nessuno mi ha guardato in quel modo, I've never seen anyone looked at me like that. She looked at the corner that the fallen angel walked past, fear evident in her eyes. Rainer, you are to look after her for the moment while I fly around for a bit, okay? Middled ordered. The woman sighed. Sure. She walked to the blonde and gave her small smile. Restiro con me nella mia stanza, you'll be staying with me in my room. Virginia Bean, is that alright? Asia nodded, but a look in the taller woman's eyes. Si guarda come si fassi in tanto dollar, you look like you're in so much pain. Rainer sighed. Basta vir nel letto, just get in the bed. She thumbed at the bunk bed behind her. Prendero part superior, I'll take the top. In questo modo si cade, non fare male tanto, that way if you fall, it won't hurt so much. The two blonde sweat dropped at that. Issei sighed as he crashed on the couch of the clubroom. I guess I won't be keeping that promise, Asia-chan, he sighed as the blonde nun's face flashed through his mind. But Yuma crying expression then came. I wonder if Yuma-chan's alright. Thinking about your girlfriend? Akeno teased. Wah. Akeno-san. The revived devil leaped out of the couch and fell face first onto the wooden floor. Ow, he groaned as he raised himself. How long have you been there? He asked. I just arrived. She giggled with her hand over her mouth. You seem very fond of the person that killed you. She was forced to kill me. He sighed. What's your story? He retorted. Akeno frowned slightly. I'm sorry. She said. It's just she stopped as the front door opened and Riaz walked in. Akeno? The Redeed blinked in surprise. I thought you were home already. The Archduke just sent us a message. The Japanese beauty said as she stood. The Archduke? She raised an eyebrow. What happened? The stray is loose in this town. Ria's eyes darkened. Deep in a forested area away from Kao, Riaz and her peerage appears in a large magical seal. Riaz looked around and nodded. This is the area. She said as she leads her group deeper into the forest. That Donaseek guy mentioned something about a stray before he attacked me. Issei said, turning to Kiba since she was next to him. Strays is a name given to devils that used to serve under a peerage. Kiba started looking at the brunette. Like us? He asked. In a way. The Prince of Kao nodded. They get that title after betraying or killing their masters in order to live their own life how they see fit. We're going to that abandoned mansion at the top of the hill there. Akeno stated as she pointed at a large two-story old building, the walls dried by age and vines covering the majority of the structure with broken glass windows. From the reports, it also lures in humans to eat them. Kiba said. Eats them, Issei said, shocked. Tonight's mission is to get rid of it. Riaz said as they reached the house, the front door looking rather normal. Prepare yourself, Issei-kun. Kiba warned as she summoned a sword in a scabbard by her hand. Soon you'll see what happens to those that allow themselves to be consumed by their own power and selfish greed. The door then opened and the group of devils entered, but soon stopped at the scent of blood and decaying flesh and sight of butchered bodies and gore in the area, along with blood splatter on the walls. Oh shit. Issei's eyes widened by the sight. He noted that everyone was calm, although they did make a face by the scent. How many times have they seen things like this? He wondered. Issei. Riaz called her servant. Hi. The brunette snapped his attention to the Redeed, ignoring the sight. Do you know the game of chess? She asked. The reincarnated devil was confused at the question, but answered anyway. The board game? I know a little of it. He admitted. That's good. She nodded. You see, I am the king, mistress and leader of my side of the field. The other pieces that are also added are the 1 queen, 2 knights, 2 rooks, 2 bishops, and 8 pawns. We devils use this aristocracy and assign the traits of these pieces to our subordinates. Traits? The brunette asked. We call them evil pieces. The heiress stated. Why would you need to that? He asked. Riaz only smiled. For tonight, observe how we devils fight. She advised, earning a nod from the brunette. Kaneko looked to a dark side of the house. She's here. A distorted female voice sounded. Not only do you smell good and look good, but you're quite smart as well. A figure was shown in the shade. But at the same time, you smell bad. A young woman with a voluptuous figure, her large cup bust bare to world topped with dark-toned nipples and lighter-toned areola, with short white hair and dark blue eyes. I wonder. Will you taste good or bitter? Issei swallowed a lump in throat as he looked at how large the woman is. She has nice upper body and all, but he trailed off. Her lower body was gigantic and beastly with 4 black furred legs, each having sharp red claws, and a snake as a tail. Her overall appearance was reminiscent to that of a centaur of sorts. In her left hand she held a large round shield and in her right hand a large sharp-tipped javelin. Something was hanging from it. The group watched in horror as a body was impaled. The body of a child's. "Wonder if you'll taste better than this soft thing," she commented as she took a large bite out of the dead infant. The rest of the family was kind of tough. Stray demon. Visor. Rias introduced a beastly woman as her power flowed from her body, ignoring the gory show before her. Issei couldn't take it much longer and turned away to puke. "You sick fuck," Issei panted as he wiped his lips with sleeve of his blazer. He aimed a glare at the stray devil, who simply ignored him and the others as she simply gulped the rest of the body down her throat. Delicious. She licked the blood of her lips with her long tongue. Ria's power glowed more as her sclera burned red and her eyes shifted to slit. "In the name of Duke Gremory, you will be exterminated. What an insolent young one. How long have you been a devil, She tilted her head to the side. "It doesn't matter. I will cover this place in more blood as crimson as your hair." She raised her spear and thrust it forward, a purple magical seal rotating around the tip. "Well, that's not good," Kiba commented as she stood ready. The circle began to rotate like a disc until a beam shot from the tip, breaking apart into smaller ones as it went further. "Move." Ria shouted as her peerage did so, Issei thankfully having to move on time. "Too close." The brunette freaked as he saw smoking holes in the wall. "Don't let your guard down," she warned as she looked at the blonde Kiba. "Hi," she said as she gripped the handle of her sword, her eyes turning to slit as her sclera turned red and vanished with speed. "She's fast," Issei commented in shock. "Hyoudou represents my knight, therefore, her traits are speed and amazing potential with the swords and bladed weapons." Rias lectured as her knight appeared before the stray and drew her sword, swinging it down and clashing against Visor's javelin. "Do you think you can defeat me, child?" The stray taunted as she pushed the blonde devil away. "Of course I do," Hyoudou stated with confidence as she vanished with speed once again appeared behind the large devil. "How did you ga?" she began to say, but cried in pain as her javelin-wielding arm was lopped off by the Kiba's sword. She hissed, launching her snaketail at the blonde devil, who clashed her sword against it and cut the head off. "You will pay for that. Do you know how long it will take to grow them back?" she bellowed. "It doesn't matter." Rias waved her off. "Kaneko." "Hi." The petite girl responded with a small nod as her eyes changed to that of a devil and leaped up. "Whoa, she's a jumper." Issei awed how high the small 15-year-old can jump. Visor swung her shield to try and bash Hyoudou away, but the blonde devil used the shield as a springboard and launched herself away and landed by her king's side. The stray then looked at the airborne Kaneko. "You think a little gnat like you can do any type of damages to me?" She swung her shield at the white-haired girl and was satisfied with sound of contact. "Kaneko-chan." The brunette shouted and was about to aid her, but Rias held him back. "Ria-senpai?" he wondered, but the red-haired devil only smiled. "Kaneko is my rook. Her traits are simple." Visor looked at her shield and noted the white-haired devil had an extreme grip on it, her small fingers gripping and cracking the material. "What? Tremendously high defense." Rias grinned as Kaneko cocked her left hand back and clenched her fist. "With equal strength." "Eh?" she muttered as she slammed her fist against the shield, breaking through it and shattering the pieces. "Impossible," she cried before receiving a foot to the face, knocking her large body down and crashing onto it, kicking up dusts and small debris. "Remind to reward her with sweets," Issei whispered to female knight. "And not to make her angry," he added. Kiba giggled. "Maybe add some petting and she will do better in the next time we find a stray." "Bakeno," Rias ordered. Hi. She smiled as she stepped forwards towards the groaning devil. Ara, what should I do?" She wondered with smile over her face, her eyes gaining a sort of gleam as they changed to slit and her sclera burned dark red. Unknown to Rias the javelin-wielding hand was moving. Issei, who heard the sound, turned. "Ria-senpai," he shouted in warning, rushing to the devil heiress. "Ha!" He swung his left arm, his sacred gear manifesting at his will. "Get away." He punched the javelin out of the way from Rias, breaking it in two. "Thank you, Issei." The Gremory heiress smiled. He rubbed the back of his head. "I just moved on my own." The red-haired devil smiled as she sent a red burning ball with black outlines at the severed hand that leaped at the young Hyoudou. "Whoa!" he cried as the limb bursts into flames and nothing was remained of it. "Thanks." Keno licked her lips. "Looks like someone is being naughty." She raised her hands as a yellow magical circle appeared over the downed visor. "You've been a bad girl." She giggled. "Keno is my queen, a combination of all the pieces and my second in command." Rias lectured. Visor growled as she used her remaining hand to stand, her face gaining a grotesque look as it stretched to that of a piranha-like face, her sclera burning a deep blood red as her eyes turned to slit. "How dare you look down on me?" she bellowed as she stretched her arm at the queen. "You seem to have some energy left." She moaned as she raised her arms, lightning shooting down on the stray with a high-voltage attack. She gave a small moan as she heard the stray scream in pain. "Oh yes. Scream for me. Let me hear your voice." She licked her lips as her cheeks were tinted peach. "You." Visor growled out, struggling to raise her body to stand with her remaining arm, steam and smoke coming from her body. Ara. Still not going down, She smiled as her gleam in her eyes seemed to have covered them. "You can still move." A larger magical circle appeared over the downed stray. "That won't do." She sang as she sent a larger electrical attack down on the devil, shocking her even more and damaging her insides. Issei watched in slight fear that his senior seems to be enjoying herself. If the reddening of her cheeks and panting was not of any indication, she's also kind of a masochist. The Grimmery sweat dropped. "I kinda figured that." Issei chuckled nervously. The heiress smiled. "Akeno, that's enough." The queen stopped and voiced her disappointment with a small moan. "I was so close." She whined as she passed her hands over her breasts. Ria simply shook her head as she walked past her friend. Her eyes gazed at the wounded larger devil. "Any last words before you leave this plane?" Riaz asked in a cold tone as she allowed her power to flow through her body, raising her hand as an orb of red-black elements floating over her palm. "Ha. Visor chuckled, her face contorted with a sneer. "Don't act all high and mighty, Grimmery." "Ah yes. I remember you now." She jeered. "I wonder if you're ready to meet him. Oh, the face you will make when he claims you." She continued. Riaz scowled as she allowed the ball of power to increase in size. "I'm sure you will rot with pain first, but you will rot even more in disbarg." She screamed in pain as she was struck by the power of Riaz, her body burning to nothing and vanishing without a trace. The red-haired devil took some calming breaths. "Riaz." Akeno called her king. "I'm fine, Akeno." She addressed the taller female. "We're done." She looked to the others. "So let's go home." She smiled. "Hi, Butchu-sama." The three addressed. Butchu." The young brunette called the young woman that revived and reincarnated him. "Yes, Issei-kun." The devil heiress looked to her latest peerage member. "What about me?" He wondered. "I mean, what's my role in your peerage?" He asked. "A pawn," she said as she stepped forward towards the brunette, her hands held lovingly to his face. "A pawn?" He blinked. "You mean, you're my foot soldier, Issei-kun." She looked at him. "I'm the lowest rank." He seems downcast at that. Riaz raised his head and pecked his cheek. "A pawn has the greatest potential in the battlefield." She tried to encourage the young man. "Really?" He hoped. "Of course." She smiled as she turned and walked away. "After all, you took all 8 pieces, 4 of them turning into mutated pieces." Issei made his way from another session with Ray. It's been 2 weeks since meeting his first contractor in Asia as well. Damn, she hits hard. The brunette muttered as he wiped his slightly bruised cheeks, feeling it heal in time. "Hopefully, I'll make it to the next client." He muttered as he rode his bike to his next destination. He also noted how close his client has come to him. Calling him to hang out with her whenever she's not training. He has to admit that he was attracted to her. He also found out that her mother was a gang leader in her younger days. He just hopes that she doesn't meet Siko. Speaking of the kendo club captain. She has been hanging with him on her free times along with Kadis and Murayama whenever Riaz was around or not. Haneko was also giving him attention. Sharing her candy with him and sitting on his lap whenever she took the chance. She also got addicted to him petting her head. He swore that she purrs like a cat at times. Akeno and him sometimes butted heads, and whenever she was about to explain, Riaz interrupts by coming in the room. Not that he doesn't like her, oh no. He also finds her attractive with her natural beauty. He even admitted that he was slightly attracted to her masochistic side. Hiba and him has also bonded, much to the Count Oljai-sama, Prince of Kawa's surprise. She found herself actively looking for him, talking and having lunch with him at several occasions. There was even that one time she fell asleep on his shoulder during lunch. Riaz was a surprise to him as well. Since the attack, she has slept over at his house almost every day, using his chest as a pillow. He blushed slightly at the memories of him being used as the mattress at several occasions. He also wanted to know how to play the chess after facing the stray devil Visor. She admitted that a friend of hers knows better in the game. To his surprise, she pointed out to the Sitakechu, Sona Citri, and one of the council members, Shinra Tsubaki. Although he just concluded that they were humans and simply shrugged off and assumed that they were also under the memory spell. He also sees how the 2 young ladies always seem to look at him in a manner of trying to find something. He also noted a dark blonde-haired teen of his school that's always close to the short-haired glasses-wearing young woman, glaring at him whenever he assumed the brunette gained the attention of the Citri. As for M&M, well, yeah, okay, I'm almost there. He smiled as he saw a large house ahead of him. Putting what happened to him over the time in the back of his mind. To have servants, no, followers, I need to be an upper-class devil. He rehearsed the words Riaz told him those few days back. Unlike Ria's, who was born as an upper-class devil, those who are newborns, like me, has to preform and go through contracts and tests to get promoted. But I'm a pawn. He sighed, but shook his head and slapped his cheeks, keeping balanced himself on the bike as he went uphill with near ease. Gotta work hard on this. It's a long road, but I have to go through with it. He reached the house and got off his bike. He neared the front door and noticed a doorbell. He shrugged before pressing it and heard nothing. He hummed as he tapped the door, considering knocking it, but the door moved forward. The door was left open. He frowned. That's dangerous. He looked ahead, seeing a single lit room at the left side at the end of the small hallway. "Hello, Karaya-san. I'm a servant of the Gremory." He called out as he entered, but stopped. His eyes widened at the presence he felt. "I have a bad feeling about this," he thought as he fully entered the house and closed the door behind him. "Is anyone home?" Flashback. An echo was summoned by two people again. "Can you take care of one?" Riaz asked as she leaned against the window in the clubhouse. "Sure." Issei nodded as he petted Kaneko's head, the small teen sitting on his lap with her head rested against his chest. Akeno smiled. "Maybe you can get 2 contractors instead of 1. Yufufufu." She giggled. The brunette sighed. "Akeno-senpai, please." He begged. "Well, Miyamoto-san is your only client so far. And she's been calling you more than Kaneko and Kiba pointed out. Sure you two aren't dating?" She teased. "Not you two." He whined. Riaz giggled. "It's alright, Issei. Many male devils have gotten multiple females for lovers. I wonder how they survive." He muttered. The Redeed walked towards him. "Don't let me down please. I expect a lot from you, my dear Issei." She claimed. "I won't." Flashback end. "If I just go back now, facing her will be really embarrassing," he thought. He shook his head once again. "I'm coming in," he announced as he did just that. As he neared the open hall he frowned as his nose picked up a scent. "This smell. I know this smell," he mentally stated as he entered the lit room. Not hearing anything, he looked around as he went further inside. Splash. The brunette looked down, seeing a pool of red. Oh shit. He dreaded as he looked ahead as to where the small pool came from. To his shock, he sees the mangled remains of a man his early 30s, his corpse riddled with slashed and gunshots. Placing his hand over his mouth, he stopped the bile from rising. "What the hell is this?" he gagged. "Punishment for the wicked." A young man's voice from the left called his attention from the corpse. Sitting on the couch was a male about his early to mid-20s with his back turned and holding the Bible in his hand, his left leg crossed over his right. Issei can't see that he has neck-length gray hair and was wearing what seems to be a green coat with yellow-rimmed upturned collar. "I'm quoting the holy scripture here," he muttered as he turned, looking at the young devil with red eyes filled with madness. He had his tongue stuck out as well, as if tasting the fear from the brunette. Well. He grinned as he stood up, showing that he was wearing a type of priest clothing. The white shirt that was buttoned to his neck and a pair of green pants that matches the coat he was wearing over the shirt. The coat having a row of gold-colored buttons. "Looks like a shitty devil found itself here." He raised his arms and gave a mock bow. "My name is Fried Zelsen." He introduced himself with a sick smile on his face. He then began to do a strange dance. The young priest who's part of a certain exorcist organization. He sang. The priestess stepped back. "Well." A sick gleam was shining in his red eyes. "I'm not some fucked shitty devil like you now, huh?" he said in a low tone. "Did you just kill that man?" he questioned. The young man shrugged. "Who gives a fucking shit?" he chuckled. "Motherfucker made a contract with a shitty devil." He scratched his head with a disgruntled look on his face. "Once you started sucking on devil's dick or licking her pee, you're not even a fucking human anymore." He allowed a small chuckle as he folded his hands behind his back. "That's why I ended him. Let God deal with that asshole's shit." He reached into his coats. "Getting rid of you shitty devils and shitty fucking bedeviled humans," he pulled out a metal tube-like handle and a large gun. "Is my fucking job, bitch," he said excitedly as he activated the handle, glowing sword ignited from the tube in his right hand. The light sword, the teen gasps. "I will now stick the sword in your black heart. May God seek mercy upon your stained and fucked soul. Ha ha ha. I'll even shoot your head." He leaped at him, swinging his sword at the brunette who ducked under. Wafried was smacked in the chest and was sent back a few steps. Regaining his footing he instantly aimed his gun and shot at the brunette. Bang. Issei leaped to the side, but the bullet hit his leg, pain flashed through his body as he fell to the ground. He gripped his leg as he felt the pain began to subside. An exorcist's golden bullet Fried kissed the gun with an audible smooch. "You like it?" His grin came full-blown. Issei gritted his teeth as he stood up. "You damn bastard," he yelled as he activated his sacred gear. "Oh, ho, ho ho, ho. Devilish indeed." He chuckled. "Now that's more exciting to exercise." Issei's eyes widened. "Do you know how it is to be exorcised?" Ria's voice ranged through his head. You're not going to hurt anyone. He rushed to the man, swinging his gauntlet-like arm at him. Olay. Fried taunted as he avoided the blow and slashed his back. The brunette gritted his teeth, fighting the pain, and whirled around, smashing the young man's face with the jewel embedded in his hand and sent him flying against the wall. Aha! He screamed as he rubbed his nose. Looks like it's not for show, huh? He licked his lips and let his tongue hang out. Standing up he grinned savagely, his sword ready and rose. I think cutting you to shitty little pieces would make me feel better, he muttered as a murdering gleam entered his eyes. Hi-ah. The two stopped and looked at the source of the sound. Issei's eyes widened at the person standing there, clearly shocked at what she was here too. Oya. He scratched his head. Asia, avete finito di impostor la barrier, you're done setting up the barrier? Questo e, this is. She looked at the corpse before her, green eyes tearing at the sight. Si chiama un cadavere, that's called a corpse. He said in a glee-filled tone. Ecco la vita di un eretico, behold the life of a heretic. Finito servendo I diavoli contro il nostro Dio, ended by serving the devils against our God. He walked up and held the gun to her. Ora robustieri alla fine chi la vita scappata di merda diavolo, va bene, now toughen up and end that shitty devil's fucked life, okay? He noted that she was still shivering at the corpse. PSH. Still a beginner, he muttered in Japanese. Questo è il nostro lavoro, this is our job. Excidiamo gli esseri umani inutili incantati da questi diavoli, si vede, we kill worthless humans enchanted by these devils, you see. Nani po you can't. She finally turned away from the corpse and looked at the older man, but someone caught her eyes. Signor Issei, Mr. Issei. Asia, cosa stai facendo qui, what are you doing here? He looked at the young nun with wide eyes. Fried grinned as he looked between the two. What's this? What's this? You two know each other? He asked. Perche qui, why are you here? She asked in shock. Issei turned away from the blonde, shame evident on his face. Mi dispiace, I'm sorry. Sono un diavolo, I'm a devil. Say un diavolo, you're a devil. She gasps. Non stavo cercando di ingannar voi, I wasn't trying to fool you. He claimed. Ho pensato ci sarebbe stato meglio non vedere di nuovo l'altro, I thought it would have been better to not see each other again. He muttered. Si prega di non fare, please don't. She whispered to him. Per troppo poco Asia, chi come questo fatuto mondo oppier, unfortunately little Asia, that's how this fucked up world works. He leaned forwards. Gli esseri umani e demoni sono incompatibili, humans and devils are incompatible. He whispered to her ears. Per non parlar non possiamo vivere senza la protezione degli angeli caduti, not to mention we can't live without the protection of the fallen angels. Fallen angels, Issei thought as he rubbed his left arm. Andiamo questo fatto ora, well let's get this done now, huh? He stated as he was suddenly in front of Issei and stabbed the light sword in the brunette's right shoulder, relishing in his scream of pain. Signori Issei, Mr. Issei. Asia cried as she ran to him, but yelped as she was roughly tugged back by her hair. Dove caso pensi ci stai andando, Cagna, where the fuck do you think you're going, bitch? Fried shouted as he pulled her hair with his unoccupied hand. Per favor fatemi guarirlo, please let me heal him, she cried as she pulled. As oh no, fuck no. He yelled, roughly throwing her to the wall, her back slamming against it. Asia. Issei cried to the blonde. Per favor, please, she begged as she looked up with her eyes. Lascialo andare, let him go. Padre Fried, ti prego, Father Fried, I beg of you. Si prega di perdona questo, please forgive this one. Tears began to leak from her eyes. Asia Issei gritted. Non fair questo, don't do this. Bang. Sta zitto, shut the fuck up. Fried scowled as he held his smoking-tipped gun. Sai chi caso stai dicendo, do you know what the fuck you're saying, he shouted at her. Asia stood against the wall, a bullet hole a scant millimeters away from her head. Lui forse un diavolo, he may be a devil, she gulped. Ma signori Issei brava persona, but Mr. Issei is good person. Un diavolo essere una brava persona, a devil being a good person. He raised an eyebrow as he yanked the light sword out of the young devil and made his way to the nun. Sei caso grave, are you fucking serious, he shouted as he slashed down at her, cutting through her robe and bra, revealing her breasts topped with light pink-toned nipples with equal-colored areola. Hi. The blonde nun screamed as she covered her breasts. Asia. Issei shouted as he stood up. Son of a bitch. He shouted as he rushed towards the priest. Fried didn't even turn as he pointed his gun behind him, a gold-colored magical seal rotating before the muzzle. He fired a compressed golden bullet that struck the young devil in the gut with enough force that it pierced through him and blew out his back, causing a large splatter of blood to burst out. Issei slammed against the wall, blood pooling around him and from his mouth. Damn, he gasps in pain. Signori Issei, Mr. Issei. The blonde cried as she tried to run past the man, but Fried grabbed her around the neck. Sigh, you know, he grinned as he eyed her body. Si guarda meglio senza quei vestiti, you look better without those clothes on. He chuckled. Mi chiedo come sera sente ad avere un bel caso di grasso farcito all'interno ci figastretta di tuo. I wonder how it'll feel to have a nice fat dick stuffed inside that tight pea of yours. He taunted as he groped her breasts. Leave her alone, you sick fuck, Issei said, coughed blood and tried to get up, seeing the fear in Asia's green eyes. He fell forward, more of his blood pooling around him. Shut up. Go grab some lotion. That should help you the fuck up. He looked at the frightened blonde's eyes. Questa è una donnata buona occhiata highly, that's a damn good look you got there. He complimented, licking his lips as he held her chin. Io vedo a gaudier di voi avvitamento in un pasticcio, I'm going to enjoy screwing you into a mess. Anche questo angelo caduto ragazzami ha detto di non farti del male non penso popping tuo ciliegia dover conter, even if that fallen angel girl told me not to hurt you, I don't think popping your cherry should count. He chuckled as he threw her to the ground near the wounded devil. Una suora casta farsi seriamente casata da un prete, a chaste nun getting seriously fucked up by a priest. He cried in lustful glee as he neared her. He hovered over her and grabbed her breasts once again. His gun went down her body and raised her skirt, revealing her white panties. Non vi sembra così divertente caso, doesn't that sound like so much fucking fun? He licked her cheeks. Non, no. She cried. Stop it. Issei shouted, gaining a look of annoyance and disinterest from the priest. Leave her alone. He stood shakily, blood squirted from his wounds as she stood tall, his arms limped at his sides. How the fuck are you even still alive? He asked incredulously as he stood up. If you want to turn, you're gonna have to pay, okay? He then eyed him from head to toe. That is if you have enough blood to get it up. Ha 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 ha. Let Asia go, he growled as his sclera burned red and his eyes turned to slits. Isn't it a bit too late to get serious? The priest joked as he pressed his shoes against Asia's cloth lips, causing her to whimper in fear of losing something very important. Seeing the fire in his eyes, he whistled. Well then. He ignited his light sword once again. You'll suffer and die. But while you're dying, I'll be making little Asia here into a woman. He licked his lips as he looked at the young nun. It's going to be glorious. Asia backed away from the man. Signor Issei, non farlo, Mr. Issei, don't do it. She begged him. I'm really in deep shit now. The brown-haired devil winced as pain racked through his body. I have no chance in hell. He gritted his teeth, ignoring the taste of iron and copper that's in his mouth. I might die here, but I won't abandon Asia-chan for protecting me. He glanced at the girl that was too innocent for this world. Non si preoccupi. Don't worry. Tutto sta andando tutto bene, everything's going to be alright. He said before he rushed towards the battle-crazed man with a shout. Freed stood ready to carve his light sword into the wounded devil. Then the unexpected happened. The young Hyoudou swung his gauntlet fist so fast that the sick priest didn't have time to block it. But before Issei struck the man, a red magical seal appeared below him, the glowing edge acting as a barrier and blocking his fist from striking the priest. Signori Issei, Mr. Issei. Asia shouted at the trapped young devil. What is this? He wondered as he looked down at the sigil beneath his feet, his eyes widening at the recognition of it. Shit. They're calling me back. He feared as he began to smash against the barrier, seeing his feet beginning to dissolve into light particles. Riaz, no. Let me go. Don't call me back. I have to save her. I have to save her. He looked at the young nun, and to his surprise, she was sending a smile. Ci vediamo di nuovo l'altro, we'll see each other again. She hoped, eyes glimmering with the light and her tears. Si la volontà di Dio, if it is God's will. Ci sarà sicuramente rivedremo, we will definitely see each other again. He shook his head. Asia. He gave one final pain-filled shout as he vanished. Freed blinked. That was not what I planned for us to throw down, he shrugged as he looked at the nun, his grin returning full-blown. Time for a little stress relief. He sang as he took some skips towards the frightened blonde. Lasciami solo, leave me alone. She crawled away from him, her left arm covering her breasts as she used the other to pull herself away. Lasciami solo, leave me alone. Per favor, please. Non è necessario questo, you don't need to this. She cried desperately, more tears leaking down her face. Ma voglio, but I want to. He leaped at her. Ora di entrare nei mondi di adulti, time to enter the worlds of adults. Asia screamed as the man neared her. The flutter of wings was the only thing Freed heard before receiving a savage kick to his neck, sending him flying to the small coffee table and breaking it as he crashed through it. Fucking asshole. Middle shouted at the man as she glared at him with her glowing slit blue eyes within the pool of black sclera. Her thorn halo was blazing hot as she summoned a pink light spear, and a set of wings were settled against her back. Freed popped his neck back into place as he glared at the Lolita-dressed graceless angel. What the fuck, you bitch? He shouted in rage as he stood up. You just messed up my flow. The blonde fallen angel gritted her fanged teeth as her jaw unhinged. With a roar of feminine fury, she hurled a light spear at the priest, successfully hitting his stomach and pinning him to the wall. "Where the fuck is Issei?" she shouted at the young man as he coughed up blood. "How the fuck should I know?" he shouted back as he attempted to pull the spear and himself from the wall. "Fucker left as soon as I killed the shitty human who tried to make his already fucked up life more fucked up by making contacts with the shitty devils." He struggled more. "God. How the fuck do you get this thing off me?" he bellowed. "Come on. Let me g." A smaller spear was sent between his eyes, pinning his head to the wall and silencing him as his body slumped. Middled huffed as she turned to the whimpering Asia, her wings unfurled as they wrapped around the distraught maiden. She felt her jumped and hushed her. "Virginia Bean, Piccola, it's okay, little one." She soothed the crying blonde. "L'uomo cattivo è andato per ora, the bad man is gone for now." "Ha cercato di," he tried to, she whimpered. Louis, he, what?" she cried. "Non parler più, Piccola, don't talk anymore, little one," she advised as she glared at the pinned body. "Riposa ora, rest now," she whispered as she waved her hand over the green-eyed girl's face, her eyes drooping, and she fell into the smaller girl's arms. She glared at the pinned body once more before vanishing in her own magical circle. "I wonder how it went?" Riaz wondered with a small smile. "He should be finished by." "Thud. Issei," she shouted as she saw the condition of her latest peerage member and rushed towards him. The others did the same, each concerned and shocked at how heavily wounded the pawn of Ria's grimoire was. Issei coughed up a glob of blood as he lay on his chest, his life fluid making a puddle around him. As Asia was his last word before he passed out. "Hyoudou-kun. Issei. Issei-senpai. Issei." End of the here. So that's it for today's video guys. Before you go, just like the video and share it with your friends. Bye.